Welcome to the channel. In this video we're going to be taking a first flight in Kerbal Space Program 2, which was released into early access in February 2023. Now before we get started, I just want to give you a bit of a background just so that your expectations align with what I'm probably going to be capable of delivering. The first thing is that I played the original Kerbal Space Program, it must have been back in about 2019 2020, round a friend's house, and I played for about 2 or 3 hours, and I'll be completely honest, didn't go well. I got very confused with mechanics, but since then with Kerbal Space Program 2, I really feel that maybe I want to make the effort to actually learn how to play this game. Now if we go into single player, the first thing I noticed is the fact that there only seems to be a sandbox mode available. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I think in the original version there was a career progression as well, but maybe that will come later. If we come down, you see I've actually got a save game here where what I did was mainly to test the recording, also just to go over some of the really low level basics, but that describes my full extent of the understanding of the game. Also, I've deliberately avoided watching any videos on YouTube on this game, so this is going to be very much a cold run in. So I think what we'll do is we'll just go in here, go in and well, I think there's only one difficulty, normal, and I think we'll call this first flight, or maybe actually it might be better if I actually say first crash, because and you can see here I don't think we can change that, but we can change our logo. I think we can change the color as well. Set your agency colors. Well, we'll get round to that, because user first time experience here. And one thing we will be doing is taking a look at the tutorials, because I'm very interested about the learning curve, because as I said in the first version, the learning curve was a little bit steep and a little bit confusing. Oh wow, I must admit I do like this intro video, so I will show it to you because it shows the quirky nature of the game.
Your new space program, leaping forward into the cosmos. Since the dawn of Kerbal kind, we have looked to the sky and wondered what sublime mysteries lie hidden in the darkness, like jewels never beheld. These untold treasures may soon reveal themselves due to the efforts recently founded Kerbal Space Program.
Oh my, I think that might have been the only copy of the orientation film. Hold on, slides, somewhere. Welcome to your first day running the Kerbal Space Program. This campus hosts the greatest ever gathering of astronomers, astronauts, and engineers. After years of focused effort, this collection of geniuses has created several very impressive buildings. We believe we have all the necessary pieces to take our first steps off the ground. The best way to advance our technologies further is to get up there and learn by doing. All we need now is somebody to show us how to put all these parts together. Well, we also need somebody to help us out with the flying. We need a lot of help, actually. That's why you're here. My name is Paige, by the way. If you need any hints, feel free to visit me over at the training center. Everything in there is well padded, so it's a great place to get up and running. Welcome aboard!
I must admit, I do like that quirky style. Okay, so we can talk to Paige. Hello, welcome to the Kerbal Space Center. This campus has everything you will need to turn your fledgling space program into the stuff of legends. Continue. Our engineers have created a training program which will guide you through the buildings and flying the very first rockets. You can go through these lessons at the training center. So what we got here is a bit of an overview of the space base, I suppose is what you'd call it. And I'll just run through the menu. What we got is the vehicle access building, and you get these messages as well. So if you want to, welcome to the vehicle assembly building. And this is where you actually build your ships, but at the moment we're not going to do too much with that. And then we've got the launch pad itself, which we can select different launch pads. The tracking station, I don't think will show us anything, but what we're going to do is go straight into the training center, simply because well, I don't really know what I'm doing. So we're going to start here. Now you can see that the actual training has been split up into different sections. So where the fly rockets lessons take place in the simulation. You can start a lesson at any time, even in the middle of an active flight. When you've done, you can put you right back to where you found. So the first one I've actually have done. That's the video. That's the save game that you saw when I first loaded it. And what this does is it literally goes through the absolute basics of how rockets work, and of course the elementary controls. And I think what we're going to do is move down to the second one, which I haven't done, which is missing the ground, which probably might help you there. You can see that these are actually split up into a series of sub-tutorials. And what happens is we'll start on this one. It says the game will be paused while you're in the tutorial. Yep, thank you, game. And what happens is this just goes in a series of steps and flow throughs. So I'll just let it run and we'll see what happens, because I've got no idea what's going to happen now.
Missing the ground. If you want to visit space for more than a couple of minutes, you'll need to get to orbit. An object is in orbit when it's moving sideways so quickly that even as gravity causes it to fall, it keeps missing the ground. As long as that object isn't slowed down by anything, it follows the same path every time it goes around the body it's orbiting, forever. If that object is a Kerbal, it is recommended that they bring lots of snacks. So since your goal is to move horizontally at a high speed, why not launch sideways? On Kerbin, the atmosphere is like a thick soup. You waste a lot of fuel trying to fly through it horizontally. By launching vertically, you cut through the thickest part of the atmosphere as quick as possible. Most orbital rockets begin tilting toward the horizon soon after they leave the launch pad. This maneuver, called a gravity turn, uses the planet's gravity to turn the ship and reduces the amount of fuel needed to achieve a stable orbit. When launching near the equator, your gravity turns should point toward the east, since your vehicle gets a free boost from the planet's rotation. Thanks, planet! Once a vehicle is moving quickly enough that its arc will take it above the atmosphere, it shuts down its engines and coasts to space. Once it nears the top of that arc, the vehicle needs to fire its engines a second time to keep itself from falling back down to the planet. Doing this turns that arc into a nice big circle. Congratulations! You've missed the ground.
The reason I let that first tutorial run right through to the end was that it's important to understand that with this game, it's based on real physics of getting up to and traveling in space. And unlike games like when I play Imperium, you just press the button, your ship just takes you straight up through the atmosphere. So this is one thing that you do need to be aware about this game. You are dealing with real physics the way it is. Anyway, we're just going to move on to the next one and see what we're going to do.
Work top to bottom, tailoring each stage to carry the weight of everything above it. To give you a head start, I've already placed an upper stage, perfect for maneuvering in the vacuum of space. It could use another, more powerful stage to push it up to space from Kerbin's surface. Let's turn this vehicle into a multi-stage rocket.
And for any of you,
we intend to drop an empty stage after using all of its fuel. We connect it to the stage above it using a decoupler. A decoupler contains explosive bolts that, when activated by a staging action, eject the attached stage away from the rest of the vehicle.
and it says select the coupling category in the parts picker, which is over here. Just do that. So select the TD112 stack decoupler. And I think what we got to do is we've got to click it.
Add that decoupler to the bottom of your rocket.
In the
you
build,
need to attach a larger, more powerful lower stage to the bottom of your rocket. To keep things simple, I've whipped up a new lower stage in another workspace. You can bring saved vehicles and other sub-assemblies into an in-progress workspace by merging it. Let's merge my lower stage into this VAB workspace.
I must admit, Page is a little bit irritating, but for any of you who are used to my very poor reading. I think I'm just going to let it run. I think what we're looking for is up in this top right-hand corner. There's a little circle going there.
Out in the real world, this list which all of your saved workspaces.
Okay.
Here in the simulator, I'm only showing you the lower stage you need to merge. Now that the lower stage has been merged into your current workspace, you can see it next to the upper stage. Select the lower stage and connect it to the decoupler beneath the upper stage to create a single two-stage rocket. Merging is a very powerful tool. Anytime you want to reuse a particular booster, lander, or other element from an existing rocket, merging saves you the hassle of making the same thing over and over.
Good. And that completes the next part of the tutorial. Okay, we're just going to move forward.
Space rockets sometimes need an extra boost. In a rare case of rocket scientists naming something well, these additional rocket engines are called boosters. Boosters are attached to the sides of a vehicle to keep them out of the way of the main engines. Solid fuel rockets make great boosters. They produce a very high thrust for a short time. Let's attach some boosters to the sides of...
Okay, continue. While that was actually...
Start by attaching
Thank you,
four
Paige.
radial decouplers that will eject the spent boosters when they're empty. To make sure that these decouplers are evenly spaced and aligned with one another, you'll be using the symmetry tool.
Okay, symmetry tool's down the bottom. Yeah, it says right click. Okay, select 4x symmetry.
Great! Now when you place a part on one side of your rocket, 3 more evenly spaced duplicates will appear around the rocket. Go ahead and add 4 radial decouplers.
As I say, what I've been doing is fiddling with the actual viewing tools. So like if you press the central mount bus button, you can spin round like this, and then you just move the mouse forward and back like that, and the center mouse wheel scrolls in and out as well. So what we got to do? Oh, we got to put a radial decoupler on.
Good.
Getting a bit closer.
Now attach it as shown. Perfect. Now you've got 4 radial decouplers exactly where they need to
The
be.
beat.
Fuel boosters.
I think this is where this game could probably catch you out, because it looks simple to build, but you've got to get your physics right. As it was indicating, this small rocket
Since
booster.
you're still in 4x symmetry mode, simply attach this booster to one of the decouplers you just placed.
Okay.
That will attach. Great job. You've finished your orbital rocket. You can symmetrically place up to 8 parts at once. A feat
That's
that can
interesting,
until
Key.
now only be achieved by certain sea creatures.
Do wonder. I'm probably taking thermal. Let me just have a look here. Let me just go through this, guys, and I'll just show you. So this is all the command modules, cockpits for the various ships, fuel tanks. You can see the whole range of stuff here. I think because we're in sandbox mode, everything is available. I'm assuming that if they bring in the career mode, which I will expect them to do, eventually this could be locked behind research or something like that. Jet engines, xenon, hydrogen engines. Okay. Structures, trusses, and adapters. We've got a tiny, small adapter. So many different things here. I'm sure it's going to spread. Payloads, aerodynamics, wings. Oh, actually, I'll put those on there just to make it look a bit better. Actually, what we got here: ground, move with wheels and gear. I think this is because you can build I think you can build aircraft in the game. In the original game, you could build rovers as well. Thermal shields. I suppose that should be the heat shield, but I'm assuming this has already got it in there. Electrical generators, communications, and utility. There's the parachutes, stabilizers, ladders. There's quite a lot of things that you can put on a ship, but we'll stick with the tutorial.
Before you launch a rocket, you need to plan the order of your staging events. Nobody wants to start out their flight by popping their parachute, right? Most parts that can be staged are automatically assigned to stages. Their activation order can be seen in the staging stack. You can change when staging events occur by moving them between stages. You can also add, remove,
Okay, so this says change the staging events, continue,
The staging order begins at the bottom of the staging stack.
which is on the right hand side
You
here.
want your boosters and main engine to fire together for maximum thrust. The solid fuel boosters are currently in the second stage. If we don't change anything, the boosters will... Your solid fuel boosters burn very hard and very fast, so they will run out of fuel first. Even though your main engine and boosters will activate at the same time, you want to drop the empty boosters before you drop your main engine. You'll add a new stage above stage 1 to do one thing. Activate the radial decouplers to jettison your spent boosters.
These the decouplers? Oh, it's done it for us anyway. These are the decouplers. They look like the decouplers. Well, there's a decoupler there. That's a fuel tank, isn't it? Okay, so look at the order. For some reason that is above the decoupler. It's up there, like that. Oh, it's actually... Hey, stop moving around. That right? We got this is part of stage 1. I think we got it right. Click the plus to the left of the stage. Okay.
Now move all 4 radial decouplers from stage 4 to your new stage. All done. Your remaining stages are set up so that stage 4 will orbital stage's engine. 5 will detach the orbital stage's fuel tank when it's empty. And stage 6 will deploy your landing pair. Thanks to you, this rocket is ready to fly.
So we got the solid fuel boosters, the rocket one, the decouplers, and then the fuel. Okay, this is where it's all going to go wrong, isn't it?
All right, we're ready to light this candle. In this flight, you're going all the way to orbit. I'll walk you through the process of launching, executing a gravity turn to get moving sideways, coasting to orbital altitude, and doing a final burn at the top of your arc to establish a stable orbit.
The reason it said we're going all the way to orbit is that in the first tutorial you launch, but you don't actually get into orbit. So
before we begin, let's talk about the nav ball. The nav
this is this
ball
on the
shows
left-hand side here.
orientation relative to the horizon. The blue half of the ball represents the sky, and the brown half represents the ground. The level indicator at the center shows your vehicle's orientation. When you turn, the ball turns. When you roll, the ball rolls. Assuming you want your rocket pointed at the sky, you'll want to see lots of blue on the nav ball. If you get confused, remember this rhyme. If the nav ball's brown, you're going down. At launch, you want all your engines at maximum thrust, which means you need to set your throttle at 100%. Your solid fuel boosters are way ahead of you on this. They have no setting other than full throttle, and they can't be shut off once they're lit. Once you hit the go button, they'll go full tilt until they run out of fuel. Your main engine's throttle is in your control. You can see your
So the main engine throttle's on the left-hand side here.
Shift gradually increases your throttle. Left control gradually decreases your throttle. Z and X instantly set your throttle to 100 or 0% respectively. On the throttle,
Left control.
level where you clicked.
So left click on the mouse increases it. Pressing control reduces it. That is maximum.
Your
Oops.
fuel levels
Okay.
are visible within the staging stack. Right now you can
So
see
this is on the right-hand side here.
boosters are all topped off and ready to rumble. It's time to go.
Okay.
And to start, all you need to do is fly straight up. I'll check back in with you once those boosters are empty.
Okay.
Good luck.
So away we go. We didn't get a countdown. Okay, so we're taking off. We're going straight up, and you can see the balls and straight in the center there. Well, the rocket boosters didn't last that long.
All right, the solid fuel boosters are empty. Let's drop them. It's time to start your gravity turn. A gravity turn uses the pull of the planet's gravity to help bend your vertical ascent into a horizontal arc. Step to entering orbit. For our first flight to orbit, we're going to start our gravity turn up to where the air is thin, at an altitude of around 10,000 meters. To show you where to aim your rocket, I've placed a target marker on your nav ball. First,
Because
we need to get to 10,000 meters.
thank you. Okay, we're gonna get to. Oops.
You're going to yaw towards the east so that the target marker is in the center of the nav ball. Your vessel and nav ball should look like this example video if you're performing the gravity turn correctly.
Ah, it comes back, so we gotta keep pressing to get. Oh. Takes time. It's not immediate.
Your current stage's fuel is empty. Let's drop it and activate your deep space engine.
Okay.
Great job! Your rocket is on its way to orbit. As you gain experience, you can make your gravity turns more efficient by starting to tilt your rocket soon after liftoff. Adjusting course with a series of spins instead of one big one will leave you with a lot more fuel when you get to orbit. Turning immediately after launch requires a very stable rocket. So if you ever have trouble keeping the pointy end up, you can try the simplified wait and turn method we use today.
So that completes the next part in the tutorial. It's quite interesting the fact that if you actually hear the takeoffs, you often hear the controllers say that the craft is moving down range. And that's exactly what they actually do in real life.
Right now, we're on a ballistic trajectory. If no further adjustments are made, your rocket will eventually fall back down to the ground. Our objective is to turn. The process of turning your trajectory into a circular orbit is called circularization. Partial credit to the rocket people on that one. The word circle in it, but it's really hard to say.
Circularization. And it's quite interesting. We've got a full fuel load again, so obviously the tutorial is reset. So we're going to come in here.
Planning and executing orbital maneuvers, you'll want to switch to map view, where you can see every part of your current trajectory.
Press M. That's good. That's exactly the same as in Imperial.
The blue arc passing through your vehicle is its current trajectory.
Also known as the ballistic curve.
Don't touch the controls anymore. Our goal is to make that arc into a circular orbit. After you've coasted nearly to the top of this arc, you're going to point forward, and then you're going to ignite your engine. If you time this burn right, you'll never quite get to the top of the arc, as it'll keep widening in front of you until it wraps all the way around the planet. Let's break that down a little more. The top of your arc has a helpful tag in map view. It's called the apoapsis, as AP. You're going to max out your throttle before you pass this point.
I think the I can't even say it. Apoapsis or AP is actually the highest point of the curve when you have a ballistic curve, and of course that means that that's actually the orbit.
At just before the apoapsis. We want to go faster in the direction we're already moving, so we need to make sure our rocket is pointed forward. There's a handy marker on your nav ball called the prograde marker. That represents You're all lined up and ready to go. The next step is to go max throttle. Once your trajectory reaches all the way around the planet, you'll see another marker on your orbit. This is the
periapsis,
or PE. This point, it'll always live on the opposite side of your orbit from the apoapsis, or highest point.
And of course,
burning prograde near your apoapsis, you increase the altitude of your periapsis, the lowest point on your orbit.
Of course, the periapsis is on a ballistic curve is the ground, which we want to avoid.
Here's the most important thing to remember about setting up an orbit above an atmosphere. Your periapsis must be higher than the atmosphere, or your rocket will start to slow down every time it dips into the upper atmosphere. On Kerbin, that means every
Is this actually doing it for me?
Than 70 kilometers.
So, okay, so
okay, is fully out of the atmosphere.
oh, it's actually done it for me. Thanks.
You did it. You're in
orbit.
This is when I'd usually tell you to look under your seat in the simulator, where you'd find a delicious celebratory treat.
Yeah, well.
Sadly, since the vending machine in the astrodynamics lab broke down,
obviously the game.
It's very difficult to hide snacks anywhere at KSC. Feel free to take a moment to admire your first orbit. In a way, you've given yourself a mind snack, which is way better than the edible kind.
Thank you, game. He's competing with me. Okay, so we've got up into orbit. We've got and you can see that technically the periapsis and the say AP and PE are roughly exactly the same. So if we say here, it says for 84,090 height. And if we want to see the ship, we can come in here. So this is our ship, quite happily floating through space. And of course, the game, because we're in the tutorial, it's not actually moving, so we can't actually see what's going on. And if we go back to the map here, I don't know what the tracking station does. That just gives us more information. So that's well, I seem to got myself stuck. Okay, we're back into here. So we're now actually out in space. We're just going to do an in tutorial. So we're back here. I mean, we'll look at the training center and see what's the next bits. So we've done missing the ground. It says orbits are weird. I'm prepared to go for it. Learn how to change your orbit. Okay, we'll give that a go.
Orbits are weird. Remember your orbiting baseball? What if you wanted to make its orbit higher? Well, it's a baseball, so grab your bat and try to hit the ball to a higher orbit. Your first thought might be to try to deflect the ball upwards. Unfortunately, hitting the ball upward bends its orbit so that it hits the ground before it can return to you. What you need to do is hit the ball in the direction it's already moving, adding to its already high velocity. Now that you've sped the ball up, why isn't it flying any higher? It just keeps whizzing by at the same height it always did. After all, I said that making it go faster would make it go higher. What gives? The ball is actually going higher, but it's going higher on the opposite side of the planet from where you're standing. You've raised its orbit, and you've learned the first lesson of orbital maneuvering. Your actions affect the opposite side of your orbit. Weird, huh? So your ball is moving faster, but it's still passing you at the same height. How do you get its orbit higher on this side of the planet? Now that you know how changes in velocity affect the other side of your orbit, you've got all you need. By adding velocity to the ball at the highest point in its orbit, you raise the lowest point in its orbit and make it circular again.
So eating donuts in space. Okay, so we're going to go for the next mission. For anyone who wasn't too sure what that meant, what it means is that as your spaceship goes faster in orbit, it pushes out the opposite side. But you also got to remember is that your ship is also traveling forward all the time. So it takes a complete orbit to move out to a larger orbit, if that makes sense. So effectively what you're doing is pushing around a cursor, and when you get back to where you before, you're actually higher because of the nature of the fact that when you're on the other side of the Kerbal, it pushed it out that way.
An equatorial orbit is good, but if you want to travel beyond Kerbin, you will need to manipulate your orbit. Let's start with something simple, expanding an orbit. We do that by increasing the value of our apoapsis. Let's get a good view.
Pick the map view.
Remember how you circularized your orbit by increasing your forward velocity? To raise your orbit, you'll just do more of the same. It's time to burn prograde. Now that we're pointed the right way, we can increase the throttle and watch our orbit expand.
Babe, but this is the effect. See, as you're going round.
Cut the throttle. If you overdo it, you'll leave nice. That maneuver raised our orbit on the other side of Kerbin, so we will enter high orbit there. Waiting to reach a specific point can be as eventful as watching stripes on your rover dry. The paint job will be worth it, but isn't it better to rush to the end? Skip ahead to the good stuff using a time warp. Like I said earlier, the highest point of our orbit is called the apoapsis. The lowest point of our orbit is known as the periapsis. By default, your camera is focused on your vessel, so if you can't see either of these points, adjust your camera. Scroll the middle mouse wheel to zoom in and out. An object to center your camera on it. Click the middle. Excellent! You can time warp to any position on your trajectory by selecting a point on your vehicle's current
Time warp to point. Okay.
then selecting time warp to point.
Wow.
Now you're way up in the sky, so high that if your orbit, you'll be in high orbit. Wow, the black starry void looks so small from here.
That's quite useful because it basically carried out the full maneuver because we pushed it. So what actually happened there is that we built up the speed to be able to push out to the height that we wanted to go on the opposite side of the planet. Then we then cut the throttle because, of course, because you're traveling in a vacuum, you don't lose speed. And then what happened was, is as we whipped round to the lowest point, the highest point flipped back. So the lowest point became the AP point as well. So that's the way it actually works. Okay, so we're going to go on to the next point.
From command pods to space probe cores, a lot of critical rocket parts use electric charge. You'll want to design your rocket so it can generate and store EC.
Electric charge, okay.
Most rocket engines generate electric charge while active, but we'll still need a way to keep our batteries full while coasting between maneuvers. Solar panels convert Kerbal's light into EC for our rockets. Small solar panels can just be placed, but large solar panels are delicate and must only be deployed once we're out of the atmosphere. I've equipped this rocket with 2 deployable solar panels. And crank. Just kidding. There's a handy button that opens all of them with a single click. Give it a try.
Okay, what else we got here? So there's the landing gear. Boards, okay.
Great. The solar panels are now extended. Light tracking solar panels only rotate on one axis, so we may need to reorient our ship to point them fully at the sun.
Kerbal's there.
Let's make sure the panels are getting direct sunlight by rolling our ship a little bit.
Okay. Whoops. Okay, it says the same.
Excellent. The solar panels are soaking up all of those sweet photons and giving our rockets some much-needed EC. You can see the status of any solar panel within the part manager in the electrical parts menu. You can either access the app directly by clicking the app button, or you can right-click a part to directly access it in the part manager.
Not telling me anything, is it? Oh, solar panel. Okay, there's the solar panel. We've got 2 solar panels extended. We've got stellar exposure, 100% energy flow. Okay, that makes sense.
Getting one thing and storing it is another. Most command pods have a small battery, but many missions will call for additional EC storage. When we're traveling far from the sun or going to the dark side of a planet, more batteries means more peace of mind.
Okay, continue. Right, I'm aware time is pushing on, but I'd like to complete this tutorial. I'm hoping that we're actually going to have to land on the planet again.
At some point, the crew will run out of snacks. Did you know a Kerbal is 99.9% more likely to crash when hungry? That's when it's Kerbin, a planet known for its plentiful snack options. First, let's get a better view for... Remember how we burned prograde to raise our orbit? To lower our orbit, we burn in the opposite direction.
Retrograde.
SAS can really help us out here, so let's turn that on.
The stability assist system.
Now flip retrograde, the opposite direction to our rocket's movement. All right, the rocket is aligned to retrograde. And burn until our trajectory is just... As we decelerate, watch what's happening to our periapsis. Atmosphere, this rocket is on a path back to the ground. Don't ease off the throttle yet, though. We're going to keep burning until our trajectory intercepts
it's doing it for me again.
This should give us a good idea. That's it. Let's stop our burn.
Oops, X.
Now in course with Kerbin, we need to turn that collision into something more survivable. This process of crashing without dying is called landing. Our upcoming stage will activate a decoupler, dropping the engine and exposing a very important heat shield. Why do that now?
Go.
Great. We're on our way down and our heat shield is exposed. Have you ever wondered what a marshmallow feels like when it catches on fire? You're about to find out.
I'm aware time is pushing on, but I'd really like to... Okay. We go back to... One thing I have noticed with this game is that the The keys are very sensitive when you're maneuvering and doing things. I had a few problems with that. Okay, we seem to be getting very close. Let's just go back to flight mode and see auto to ground. I'm assuming that when you're not doing this in the tutorial, you're going to have to be a lot more conscious about what you're actually doing. We're just going to watch this land. Oops. That could have gone better. Yeah, because we didn't crash in the ocean. Obviously, we need to choose our landing point a little bit more carefully. You can't practice too much. Okay, I'm going to end the tutorial there. And I think this would be probably a good point to stop the video as well, because I think that completes the third tutorial. So if we go to the VAB, for some reason we got that still there. Probably because I've messed it. Oh, I don't want to go there, do I? Sorry, I'm in the training center. Yeah, so we completed orbits of weird, and it says orbital transfers. I think this is actually okay. Thank you, game. Get rid of that. I think I've confused the game completely now. Here is the trip planner. Use it to go plot your destination, ensure that your vehicle's ability to go there. I think I've completely messed up the tutorial. Okay. So what I've done is missing the ground and orbits are weird. Orbital transfers, so I would guess, is actually leaving orbits and going, say, possibly to the moon or something like that. So we'll just come back here. So I think this is where I'm going to leave it, guys. What do you think? Are you impressed? Is it interesting? From a personal perspective, I am quite interested in actually playing more of the game, but obviously I don't want to push forward with the next tutorial, because I think the next step would be is to start building our own rocket and then going up into space, repeating the tutorial but doing it as for real in game, and then we can start to develop the concepts from there. So this is where I'm going to leave it. If you want to see more, feel free to chuck it in the comments, and well, any opinions as well. I mean, if you think the game's okay. Obviously it's still only early access, so things will come forward, but until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.